You know, it's getting serious when I start a video inside of an offline raid already. So as a lot of you guys might already know, the 13.1, the 13.5.1? No, 0.13. Regardless of what the numbers were, they said inside of the patch notes that they fixed the known memory leaks inside the game. So I had to go and test it, which I did. We have the data for both offline and online. The same method that I've used for my previous videos. We go into streets, we sit there for 20 minutes, we mark the RAM every 10 minutes, we get out, we check the traders, and then we do it for interchange and factory as well. If you guys aren't familiar with the strategy that I posed for this, you can take a look over to our previous video chain that we've had on the topic so far. It is linked in my channel. Before I get into talking about the issues that I found while I was testing, I first want to discuss the numbers, the results that I got, the concrete data that I was able to collect. So without further ado, ta-da! There it is. So the new numbers that you'll see will be the sort of watermelon color here, along with the lime green color right here as well. If you guys remember from the previous video, the run number 6 and run number 7 are actually cut off because those runs were following a distinct pattern that I saw in the previous runs that I have almost fully grayed out, but still there so you can kind of see the trend, even though it's pretty dim. And for the most part, my offline run followed the exact same trends that I was seeing previously with my no rebar offline run. It was very stagnant, not much RAM difference, the numbers were almost entirely the same, and it seemed pretty consistent. I had high hopes that the online raids were going to be somewhat equivalent, as when I first hopped into a street scab this morning before I went to work, I noticed that the behavior of the RAM was actually pretty good. It was clearing out some of the in-use RAM as I was in the game without me hitting escape. I wasn't frocking it, but it was still clearing it out. So I thought that behavior would follow up when I was playing online. That was not the case at all, actually, and I'll talk about that in a minute. First, you can see the numbers roughly consistent with what I saw in some of my other tests online. Especially this weird jump in factory I saw in other runs as well, but this sort of slope here in interchange, my interchange run, was not what I saw in my previous runs. It sort of jumped just like factory here did. Instead, in interchange, it had this same sort of slope, very similar to what I saw in streets during my 20 minutes inside. Had this sort of slope in the RAM usage, not a jump and then sort of a slow slope. It seems they might have changed something with the memory behavior there as well. So overall, there wasn't much difference in terms of RAM usage overall in RAID in my testing. It seemed pretty on par with what I was looking at before, even though the numbers may look a little bit different than what you saw, for example, on streets. Keep in mind that raid to raid, the RAM usage can vary greatly, so seeing this jump isn't too alarming, as this could have been run-to-run variance. It follows the same sort of slope, so hey, at least it's consistent. Now into the other issues that I saw while I was playing, the new bugs that just popped up that could either be related to them fixing these memory leaks or just other bugs in general. The first one, friendly guy posted about it on Twitter before I got the chance. And it's when you move items in your inventory, which is why I'm inside of RAID, there is a slight delay in online. As you see, this looks pretty consistent, but I'll show the clip that friendly guy had up on Twitter of him moving items within his inventory and then sort of teleporting back for a split second before moving slots. I assume this has something to do with the patches that they put in, maybe for bugs that they were having inside the inventory system. My suspicion personally is that the bug that Gigabeef had, where he had two items stuffed inside of each other, two rigs that were partially inside each other in his backpack, I think the stuttering that we're seeing inside of RAID was directly to fix that issue. The second, but more important of the behaviors, is that when I was playing, there was several times in RAID where I noticed the RAM usage decrease. It would actually start clearing some of the standby RAM without me doing anything at all. And when I say standby, I mean just the RAM that the game is using. I shouldn't call it standby. Regardless, there was times where it would actually control the memory usage. But on the flip side of that, after it was staying stagnant for a while, it would simply jump up very quickly and sporadically back to where it would align with inside of the curve. So for example, if I pull up that graph again, there was times within the interchange runs when I was looking at the usage where it would say, I should probably pull up, oh god, are we pulling up paint inside of a video now? So say, right, for example, in this part of the graph when I was on interchange, the graph would go steady here and the RAM usage would kind of pause for a moment before then going straight back up to where it was in the curve, and then still showing you that flat line, as there wasn't many data points that I collected during the run. So it would kind of follow this weird pattern of stopping for a second, starting, stopping for a second, starting, but in the end still following this consistent pattern. I'm not quite sure what is doing that, as, I mean, they're putting in an effort. It seems like there's some difference in RAM allocation, but it's still giving me roughly the same sort of behavior, and the usages have still mainly been the same across tests, especially in offline runs. I'm not sure if this has anything related to it, but the third thing I wanted to point out about this patch is that when I was playing, especially I think it was on streets, and I don't know if I'll be able to capture footage of this before I put the video up, but I may try to show this on stream, is I would get these sort of frequent paced stutters when I'm in game. So for example, right, if you look at the frame times in the top left of my screen, and I'll simulate it with the inventory, it would go like over and over and over again for about a couple minutes, and then all of a sudden it would be as smooth as butter, as you can see my frame time graph is right now. I don't know where these were coming from, and it was not similar to the like scab spawning that I would see where, you know, if scab spawned at the beginning of the raid, you'd see that group of stutters for a while before it calmed down again. It was not that sort of behavior. It was hard to replicate. I could only see it once or twice when I was doing my tests, but it seems to be a common thing across several raids that you have several minutes of the game just... It's about once every 1.5 seconds or so, and I'm not quite sure what's causing that, but if I had to guess, it might be something to relate to that memory leak culling that they're trying to do. And of course, if you noticed me doing that inventory procking there, it's not procking the automatic RAM cleaner. I've been trying to do it for a while, and I could never get it to actually proc the RAM cleaner. I'd loot containers, I'd loot bodies after this update, but it still doesn't proc the automatic RAM cleaner when I'm searching through any of those containers. It only does it, as you're about to see, when I open my main menu. And that number will continue to drop, probably till I get to around 13, 12 gigabytes, something like that. And it's the same behavior pretty much as before the patch. I'm not sure what things they patched, but if there was one thing that I could note, and I didn't collect the data for this, and I apologize, but when I was doing these tests for RAM leaks, I did notice that the VRAM usage would spike up pretty much in unison, especially on streets, and that seems to have at least stopped for now. If it's still going, it's a lot slower than what it was before. So if you're worried about your VRAM spilling over time, it seems like they might have done something to help fix that, though I haven't collected any data on it. All I could say is that my VRAM was not ticking up during the tests. If you guys would like me to test those numbers as well, I 100% can. I just figured I would get out my initial thoughts on the update and if that memory leak issue was fixed in the slightest. But with that, that's my initial testing and thoughts for now with this update. I'll be continuing to keep an eye on it and testing Reflex as well on stream tomorrow to see if that's fixed. The word around the street is that it's fixed, but I haven't tested it myself, so I don't want to recommend it until I can see it with my own eyes. But that's about it for now. I'll see you guys in stream tonight as of the posting of this video, probably around 7 o'clock or so, maybe even sooner if I get the chance. You guys know how it is, and let me know what your performance is either in the comments below or in that stream or even in my Discord, which is also linked in the description at the top of it. So with that out of the way, thank you guys for watching and supporting the videos. It's been really cool to do this stuff for you guys and make this sort of content that's informative while also tackling some of the issues with this actually quite stunning game. Honestly, it's quite pretty here right now. But with that, I'll see you guys tonight. And this is Clem. Clocking out. Later.